Hello, my fellow immortals, and welcome back to The Source. I'm your host, Russell Nash, and this is the #1 spot for Highlander the card game, as well as all other Highlander-related material. Before we jump into the video, I just want to give a quick status update on where I've been. Unfortunately, I ended up getting sick, and it always takes me a little longer to recover. I also work from home, so I was having to balance my recovery as well as my workload. But things have started to even out again, and I can start to produce the kind of content that I would like to on a regular basis. So I just want to give a big thank you to everyone who's been waiting patiently on that next video. So without further ado, let's get into it. In this video, I'm going to be talking about persona cards. We're going to talk about what a persona card is, why you should be using a persona card, and I'm going to give you 3 examples of the many different personas found in Highlander the card game. So first, what is a persona card? A persona card is a powerful pre-game card that you will play before the game begins, and it is essentially you taking on the persona or playing as a specific immortal from the movies or the television series. As you will see, the persona cards will have a picture of the immortal on the front, and on the back of the card, it will have some biographical information or some little facts about that specific immortal. Now, before we really get into the different personas, I'd like to say that you can play Highlander without using a persona card. You can play the game and build a deck, and you will just be what is called a generic immortal. Now, there are some drawbacks to playing as a generic immortal, and you're going to see those drawbacks during deck construction. So for example, let's say I'm not using a persona and I'm not playing as a specific immortal. I can only use one card from all of the different immortals during deck construction. I can only use one of each of their cards. So for example, let's say I'm building a deck and I'm not going to use a persona card. I'm not going to be playing as a specific immortal. So I can only use one of each card from all of the different immortals. I can only use one Connor McLeod event Power Blow and one Connor McLeod Dodge defense card. I could not use 2 of each of those cards. I would have to fill out the rest of my deck with different cards from different immortals. So that is a drawback when playing as a generic immortal. Also, playing as a generic immortal will not allow me to use Masters cards. And I think this makes sense because if you're playing as a generic immortal, you're more like a jack of all trades. You're not really a master at anything. Unlike playing as a specific immortal, these are professional warriors. They have honed their craft through centuries of armed combat, and it just makes sense that they would be the ones that would be able to use Masters cards, while a generic immortal would not be able to use Masters cards. Getting back into persona cards, you can only use one persona card, and you can only have immortal specific cards for that immortal during your deck construction. So let's say, for example, I'm using the Annie Devlin persona card, and Annie is an immortal from the television series. During deck construction, I can only use cards that coincide with Annie Devlin. I could not use Slan Quint's cards or Connor McLeod cards if I'm using the Annie Devlin persona. Now, each persona or each immortal has their own persona power or special ability that you can use during the game to aid you in combat. Now, the first example I'm going to show you of an immortal-specific persona card is probably one of the fan favorites from the movies and the television series, and that is Duncan MacLeod himself. So let's go ahead and take a look at what Duncan's persona card looks like. So as you saw, it had a picture of Duncan MacLeod on the front, and on the back it had some information about Duncan, where he was born, and it also had his persona power or his special ability. And Duncan's special ability is that he can attack to areas that he just blocked, And if he makes a power blow, his opponent cannot make a hidden attack during their turn. And if you remember from my How to Play Highlander, if you make a power blow during your attack phase, during your opponent's attack phase, they can make their first attack hidden. But if you're playing as Duncan MacLeod, as you can see on the back of his persona card, if you make a power blow, your opponent is not going to be able to make a hidden attack. And that is one of the many benefits that playing as a specific immortal will give you during deck construction and during the course of the battle. Now, as I've mentioned, during deck construction, if you're playing as a specific immortal, you can only use immortal specific cards for the persona that you're playing as. So just keep that in mind and remember that during deck construction. Also on the back of the persona cards, you will see how many Masters cards each immortal is allowed to use in their deck. So for example, Duncan is allowed to have 6 Masters cards, and you cannot go above his 6 Masters cards during deck construction. And each immortal is going to have a different number of Masters cards that they can include in their deck. So the next example of a persona is also, I think, one of the fan favorites from the television series, and it's none other than Duncan's own protege, Richie Ryan. Now, as you saw on the back of Richie's persona, it also had some biographical information, some little details about Richie, and it also had Richie's special power. And Richie's power is during deck construction, he can have 1 restricted card from all of the different immortals in his deck. And it also said how many Masters cards he can have, and Richie can have 5 Masters cards. So in my opinion, Richie is more versatile in deck construction than some of the other immortals because he can pull from all of the different immortals and get some of the best cards in the game and use them in his deck. So that is another benefit of using a immortal specific persona card than playing as just a regular generic immortal, because you're not going to be able to use signature or restricted cards when you're playing as a generic immortal. You're just going to be able to use one of each of the different immortals cards. And the last example of an immortal specific persona that you can use is the man none other than Connor MacLeod himself. Let's go ahead and take a look at Connor's persona card. So on the back of Connor's persona card, it gave some biographical information just like the others, and it also listed how many Masters cards he can have, which Connor can have a surprisingly a lot of Master cards. He can have up to 7 Masters cards in his deck. But I mean, that makes sense. He is Connor MacLeod, so you know it makes sense that he can have quite a few Masters cards because I mean Connor is one of the best Masters in the game, so it makes sense. You know, he's one of the best and most deadly immortals in the Highlander universe. And Connor's persona power is he can always see hidden attacks. And just like Duncan, he can attack to areas that he just blocked. And if you remember in my How to Play video, you cannot attack to an area that you just blocked. So that is also another benefit of using an immortal specific persona like Connor or Duncan. If you block an attack, you can go ahead and attack to any area back at your opponent during your attack phase. So those are just a couple of different benefits of using a persona when you're building your deck or during deck construction, because you can really take those things into mind and you can really have good synergy with your persona and the cards in your deck. Now, when you're using a specific persona, why you should be using a specific persona is that each immortal is going to have their own immortal specific cards that you can pull from to build your deck with. And these cards are some of the most powerful cards that are found in Highlander CCG. That is why you would like to try to use a persona because you have the ability to use that Immortals persona specific cards, and that is really strong in my opinion because like I said earlier, these cards are some of the strongest in the game, and if you can make these cards go well with the persona power and the persona that you're using or that you're playing as, you're going to have and you're going to find really good success during the course of the battle. You're going to have good synergy because you know what your Immortals persona power can do, and you also have cards in your deck that are Immortal specific to that persona, and these cards are just going to work well and feed off of each other. So that was just a rundown on 3 of the many different personas that you can use in Highlander the card game. And I hope that you have a little bit better understanding of what a persona card is and a little bit better understanding of the different kinds of powers that all of the different Immortals have. And all of the different Immortals are going to have their own special, unique power that you can take advantage of and use during the course of the battle. Tell me down in the comments who some of your favorite Immortals are from the movies or the television series. Tell me who you love the most. Tell me what Immortals are your favorite villains, or tell me who some of your Immortals are your favorite heroes. If you liked this video, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more Highlander CCG content, go ahead and consider subscribing. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. Don't lose your heads out there. Be on the lookout for that next video. And remember, there can be only one collectible card game.